Good. Hello, good evening everyone. Thank you very much for joining us and for queuing so patiently downstairs, and welcome to our humble drawing studio. Very sadly, Dr. Claudia Tobin couldn't join us this evening for the talk, so it's my great honour to introduce tonight's speakers, David and Liza, both of whom I'm sure are already familiar faces to our audience this evening. But we're so delighted to have them with us in the studio this evening to talk about drawing the Unspeakable, which has just opened at Towner Gallery in Eastbourne. David Dimbleby is a journalist and broadcaster. He's worked with the BBC for many years, chairing Question Time for 25 of those years, as well as being a prominent voice in many important broadcasts, including 10 general elections. He's produced a film and series for the BBC on art, architecture and British history, and he's the outgoing chair at Towner Gallery. Liza Dimbleby, David's daughter, is a face that many of you here at the school will know, and she's very much part of the fabric of the Royal Drawing School, having done the drawing year herself. Never really left, and now works and teaches across a great many of our programmes, and many of our drawing year students and alumni will have had excellent teaching sessions and tutorials with Liza over the years. She's an artist and a writer, and her book I Live Here Now came out in 2008, and she's spoken at venues across the UK, Paris and Russia about her work and writing. Really excited to have you both here this evening and to hear more about drawing the Unspeakable, which is an ambitious and exciting show of over 200 drawings, which has just opened at Towner Gallery in Eastbourne. And we're really excited to hear more about how the exhibition came to be over the course of the next hour. So thank you, and I'll hand over to you both.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. Great.
All right.
That's better for seeing, I think. So here we are. This is the first room of the exhibition. Dad's going to say a little bit about how we ended up curating this, how on earth we ended up with all this space to curate this show that's just opened.
Shall I explain that?
You can explain that.
It's lovely to see you all. This is a really weird combination. Liza, as you're saying, has been here 20 years. I've barely done any scribbling. I go to a lot of galleries where I can with her, so I've had an interest. But the provenance of this was a completely crazy notion by my director at Towner Eastbourne, because I was retiring at the statutory 10-year period from being chairing the trustees. And he'd somehow picked up that during COVID, we either did or pretended to exchange drawings on the internet every day. I think there was a bit more pretense than reality in it, in truth, but he seized on this idea and he said, well, why don't you do the two of you, a joint exhibition? And so, we accepted the idea, and we thought, Towner has a huge top 3 galleries, and then it's got 2 smaller galleries down below and another one below, and 3. I don't know how many of you have been to Towner. It's a great building. We had the Turner Prize there last year, and we were Museum of the Year. I have to say these things because we have to boast about Towner, and I want you all to go down there and see this exhibition. But anyway, so I thought we'd just have a little room, and we'd take some drawings out of the Towner collection, and maybe add a few of our own. And that was how it began. And in an amazingly brief period, 6 months only, and mainly driven by the dynamo sitting on my right, we accessed actually not 200 but nearly 300 drawings, and did all the work of finding the artists, finding the galleries to lend, the museums to lend, doing all that stuff. And the theme, my original idea for the theme, because I love drawing, and she's a great drawer, and I love drawing, and my original idea was that we call the thing, why paint if you can draw? Seemed a nice way of putting it. So why paint if you can draw? And then we thought of...
I wanted a darker title.
Yeah, darker. So in the end, we chose the darker title.
I think you weren't at that meeting. I just got, and Towner said great, so they ran with it.
Drawing the Unspeakable. So we set off, and the part I played, because I just want to explain why I'm here even, is that all the way through with Liza, we went to artist studios. Liza got rows and rows of online pictures of drawings that were available, and all the time we were honing these themes, and actually we did look at every single one together. We agreed every single one together, talked to artists, went and saw things. So it was very much a joint enterprise, but the detail and the work and the inspiration behind it, frankly, was Liza's.
Well, what I thought tonight was that we'll take you on a virtual tour a bit through these big brown muddy spaces that which Towner, the director, chose this amazing paint colour, like a kind of being in some mud cave, and we'll take you a little bit through and show you some of the work that's in the exhibition, and talk a bit about the themes interrupting each other, which is what we're doing in these long strips you see, which are these dialogues, which are our conversations about the work, because we thought, instead of having wall text telling you what to look at, we would record ourselves looking at the images. As we looked at the images together, we recorded our conversations about them.
These weird kind of Chinese scrolls, you see, go right up to the ceiling. And they were based on conversations we recorded, which I thought were complete rubbish. I said, you can't possibly send that to printed out. The Towner got hold of them. No, these are very funny and they're full of insight. To tell the truth, I haven't yet read them.
Yeah.
So no,
I think they're really funny. But yeah, so this is a Gilray, which sort of starts the show, and it's a unspeakable because this mouth, the way it disappears into the, and if you come to my drawing lectures, you see I often bring this one out because I love it, and the sort of crazed frenzy of this drawing. But the actual exhibition starts with this wall, which we were told to do. We are not showing off. We were told that we had to put our drawings in just to give people a sense of our drawings. So
we are showing off.
Well, we are now, but we didn't propose ourselves to be part of the curation.
Mine are all the black figures tied to railings in a way.
And the
more original ones are Liza, including a comment on our family, the one you can just see of a man with a log on his back, strapped to his back, which is called Family Tree. Brilliant.
So that's the start. And then there's a big Cara Walker as well at the start, so which is called Origin of the World, and this Aisha drawing, who is an alumna of the drawing school. But key, I think, was also this, when we went to the Towner collection and we looked in, when I got excited, I thought, oh, maybe we're just going to be rearranging some Revilius and Borden and things. And then I saw they had this fantastic Ken Kiff, huge, great drawing, and a fantastic Jakowski. And I thought, oh, I think we've got a show. If we've got these two starting points. And then I met Anna Kiff and went to the biscuit factory, which has the Ken Kiff estate. And she said, you can have any drawings, you have whatever you want. And so suddenly I had a whole wall of Ken Kiff drawings, and that was thrilling to just be able to put up this wall of Ken Kiff. So that's kind of main feature of the...
Was it she who gave us the pink rosé?
No. She gave me a cup of tea. That was Peter de France's widow.
That was Peter de France,
yeah.
Yes.
So then we have this central room, and we have the Jakowski voyage drawing sequence here on the left, and our conversations, and then that big Ken Kiff wall. And then in the middle, you see Ray Ward's Whirly Garden, which has made these little creatures and figures all kind of cut out of egg boxes and milk cartons, and they sort of spiral around quietly on turntables with very faint music. And this is the Jakowski that's in the Towner collection of Dr. Grodek, of Baden-Baden, and then that was another theme for me, because I thought, great, Grodek, I love Dr. Grodek, and he was a correspondent of Freud's, but he didn't just believe in the ego and the id, he was really adamant that it's just a thing called the it, which is this sort of powerful force of unconscious that just moves through us all and, that just lives through us. He also massaged his patients, which was a bit controversial now, but he believed very much in the body. He wrote a very interesting book called The Meaning of Illness, and Andrzej Jakowski was very interested in this book called The Meaning of Illness, and made drawings. And his sequence of voyage drawings, he taught, when Dad and I went to see him, I mean, I'd introduced Dad to him before, many years before, but he was explaining how it was a transitional time in his life, and so he just tried to make a drawing a week, and he would wait for suggestions from his dreams, from the unconscious, and make one drawing a week over a period of 60 weeks. And we have 6 of these drawings on show, and it's sort of telling a story. So they're a kind of condensed storytelling of his full series. And these are shown on the muddy walls. He's really pleased about the brown backgrounds of the muddy walls. And then completing our central room, which is the big sequence of these kind of narrative sequential drawings, we have there on the left Ansel Krut Unspeakable drawings, and we went to choose them. Dad and I went to his Dalston studio and looked through lots and lots of drawings. You were quite taken by them, Dad, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
I was. What's on the right?
And on the right is Veronica Peat, who was a student here, and these are drawings from Russia, from her memories of her childhood outside Russia, growing up there. So they're a different kind of storytelling, but it's the idea, just sort of the idea of putting up and rearranging and different stories that can be told. That's her sequence is called Autobiography in 28 drawings.
How thematic? We gradually developed themes, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Of kind of everything from torture, murder, war, lust, love, children, birth, childbirth. How were these? I can't remember whether these were fitted into a category.
Well, I think these were about the excitement of what can you do if you put a lot of drawings in sequence and ways you might rearrange them and so. But I think Ansel said, he said, the ones you chose or the ones we chose that we were drawn to, and he said, it's come out a lot darker than I expected. Yes. And he's actually named his series Unspeakable Drawings now. He wants to give them to the Towner. Yeah, he wants to donate them to the Towner. Oh, so, yeah. So because I think Dad and I like these ones with well, you've seen Dad's drawings. They're all about people stuck behind wires and bars. So like this one. It was in your genre. And then in this same...
the word unspeakable works, doesn't it, for images like this? The man with his mouth stuffed and that. Because they are genuinely things that you can say better by drawing on paper than by 1,000 words.
Mm-hmm. And then also in this room we have Emma Talbot, and these are from her tragedies drawings that were made this year. Medea, and that one's called Sorrow Breaks the Mind. And that was a sort of series of 5 drawings to do with war, but also to do with family. So these were people who in their sequence had several themes of the wider extended rooms. And then the last wall of the room in pink is Emma Woofenden, who's here today, and this is her sequence of wall drawings that are from 1988. I think the first one on that wall was one to 2024. So they really are drawings that have accompanied her life intermittently. Every now and then she's a sculptor, but she uses drawing to think about things, or to think about what's real, as she says. So again, there's a sort of everyone putting up lots of different images on paper, but each time in a very different way of having a sequence. So from Ansel to Veronica to Emma. That's that one. Maybe you like that one. And this is a bloated in the rain. And this one is when I first realised it's one called War Games, but I think it's violence, but it's also violence in the family. So there's a relation. There's always a kind of the two things hot on each other's heels. These are the Peter de Francia.
Yes.
His widow gave us.
You got my favourite one there.
No, I haven't.
No,
I didn't have
it.
a good image of it. I thought you talked enough about that one.
Oh, okay.
So these are the two from Pallant House. We got them from various places. We went to his widow's house. She keeps a lot of them in the house in a drawing room.
Can I just describe the one I like?
Yes, of course.
I tell you why, because a friend wrote to me after she'd been and said that was her favourite too, so I thought I wasn't entirely wrong. But it's a terrifying picture of somebody who looks like a South American dictator. He hasn't got a hat on, but he's got a uniform with gold braid, and he's sitting at a table with champagne and things, and opposite him is a woman, I don't know who brought in with her legs apart, showing her body off to him, and another man, they're just eating away, celebrating something. And hanging from the ceiling is a prisoner trussed up, hands and knees, like a chandelier. It's just the most striking, terrifying picture. I'm sorry you haven't got it there.
I know, but I didn't have the images. I had to work with what I got. Anyway. But you have to go to Towner and you can see it then. Here's Denzil Forrester.
You must explain this one. Go on.
But Denzil Forrester was my first drawing teacher and taught me at Morley College and Islington Arts Factory. And this is about his friend Winston Rose, who was killed by the police in the early 80s. And he had psychiatric difficulties, but it was one of those situations where his wife had rung the police. It was completely misunderstood and badly handled, and he was violently manacled, held down. I thought he was a big man, but a gentleman, and unfortunately he was killed. And this is a picture of him already dead in the van, the police van. Denzil made his Royal College thesis about this death, wrote it, and made many paintings as well about many of his really memorable paintings in the 1980s about the death and the funeral of his friend. But this was a drawing that he made much later in 2014. So he's just, he's having a big show in New York, Denzil. So, and they wanted to take this drawing, then they remembered it had been given to us for the show. Here, these are images by Cherry Pickles, who teaches here and who's here tonight. And they're made from current war and from using media images of torture and of media recording of atrocities. So she's made a whole series, and she said she got very absorbed and just she got completely into it once she started this series. And I'd said I'd like to put some in the show. So we have 4 on show in the and there's also this sort of image of torture. This is called Well-Deserved Cigarette, and it's hanging next to a George Gross scene of torture. And actually, I didn't, even though I'd been going through with the images for so many months, I saw that the torture in the George Gross as well is smoking a cigarette. So that was a chance vision. This is a Carol Gibbons, also about war. That was an early Carol Gibbons image with these sort of phallic tanks. And the John Minton kite that we looked at and we just thought could be now, in a way. And then we have these refugee book drawings. A friend of mine works with refugees in Paris, and I was with her at a drawing session, and people were just drawing different things and making books, and they were drawing boats. They were drawing their own journeys, and it was incredibly powerful to see. And they're also drawing the home, so they were drawing where they'd come from, and they had their own houses, and flower or fellow written there. Flower is good for the eyes there. And when we were putting them in and installing the show, I had another one, and I suddenly noticed how like they were as well to this Louise Bourgeois called the Division of Territory, with these kind of stripes and even the way that the paper's really roughly cut at the side. So this, again, it's about territory. It's about division of spoils. And I haven't included all because there's too many, but there's a big section on sort of deluge and conflict and war, and this big book of these big case of the refugee drawings that I really hope people will go and see, because definitely the people, the techs, the artists, technicians who were installing were most gripped by looking at those.
There's one from a refugee from Chad who has a drawing, we don't have it there I think, but has a drawing of a camel, and it just says, "Me and my camel." He's walking along in the desert. And then it has a picture of one of those huge rubber dinghies setting off, actually in this case to cross from North Africa to Italy. And the picture everybody's sitting in, and he's just written across the top, "I don't know swimming."
Yeah.
I don't know swimming.
It was yes, and it starts when I want to go to Europe, I'm scared. I don't know swimming. And he's got a little sign saying "C'est moi," you know, it's me, and one arrow to Libya, one to Italy, and it's.
And it matches the title of the show perfectly. This.
Yeah.
It's just a drawing.
That was that stuck in my mind when I was thinking, and then I said, we've got to put those, because it had been so amazing to actually see someone drawing this felt tip sea, but actually know that they were on those boats.
Going to say how it got here?
Oh yeah, it was So we had to get most of the work had to come from the UK because we had a short curation time and all the problems of trying to get things in and customs, and then, So my friend, they're cardboard books. So she packed them in her daughter's suitcase, who was going to Brighton, and her daughter sneaked these artworks through these loans and handed them over on the streets of Brighton to the researcher who'd just been hired. So,
but what was the point of that? You couldn't take things across the EU.
Well, you'd have, if you actually officially said these are artworks for loan for the Towner exhibition, you'd end up having to pay a lot of import duty.
All right.
Yeah. So there was a bit of it was satisfying. And here's John Davies' burnt out houses, there's some burnt out houses, and John Davies' flood drawings. We have some flood drawings, and we have various floods, and we've got an enormous drawing which I haven't put in because it looks better. You have to go again. You need to go and see it, of the kind of over deluge engulfing Cardiff, by Geraint Ross Evans, who's teaches here. And these are Andrea MacLean's Making a Shield and Starlit Harbour, that attempts at hope and protection. They're at the end of the deluge section. And then we go back to emotional deluge. Yeah. And
this was an artist that Joe Hill, our director at Towner, actually discovered, isn't it? At Southend, when he was in Southend. He was the director of a gallery in Southend. I don't know how he came across the artist who is there sitting on the side of the bed, but he sort of championed him. I don't even know whether he had an exhibition of his. Did he? He may have done.
No, I think he just liked
his
him.
Work.
Yeah.
And the one on this child in the rain with a letter he's just received in tears.
And the letter apparently I heard. Do you know what the letter said?
No. Right, yeah.
Well, the letter apparently was from his father saying he's never going to see him again. That's what.
Can I put this back on? Because it just fell off.
Yeah. So the letter was this terrible news, and I think it is the same person as the man, and then he ends up in this bedroom.
He ended up a recluse, really, didn't he?
And he just drew. He never exhibited in his lifetime.
And only drew.
And just drew, yeah.
Yes.
So there are always these sort of lonely figures and a lonely bedsit. Yeah.
Was that from his own childhood?
Yeah, I think it's autobiographical. Yeah. So it's sort of that's cause and consequence in a way. I think that's.
That's me
Yeah. It's called
It's
Man.
not me, but I think it looks like me sitting under the table saying, I can't do this any longer.
So, Man Hiding Under the Table from Absolutely Everything by Liam Walker. And there's a Revilius curtain that we liked. Well, I thought I was going to have to curate all this Revilius sort of Sussex Downs pictures, but then I saw this in the Towner archive and I thought, oh, that's a really good curtain. Let's put the curtain drawing in. We've managed to make everyone interested in the curtains. So that's exciting.
You mustn't talk down Revilius.
I'm not talking him down. I like his curtain. That's a borough that we got. That's in the grotesque section, with some Michael Johnsons and Keith Vaughan.
Where did we find that from?
I can't remember. I think it's Jerwood, possibly.
Yeah.
Collection. Yeah, small.
And the Keith Vaughan from where?
The Keith Vaughan, maybe Jerwood as well, I think. This also is Jerwood. This is Barbara Hepworth. Yeah. And there's a sort of series of faces. We've got portraits. So there's a wall of 3 very delicate drawings, quite sad drawings, and Christopher Wood, which belongs to Towner, and then this Alice Neal of Kenneth Doolittle, her lover in the 30s. And you like that one, the Degani, Arnold Degani.
Yes.
Please Help Me Find My Mother, it's called.
Yes.
And then a Phelan Gibb.
I like that very much.
Yeah, that's a Towner one. Phelan Gibb, Gertrude Stein said he was going to be the big, he was like, everyone would just be rapping. He'd be like a lot up there with Matisse and Miro, but he somehow wasn't. But they were friends. So these faces, these sad faces, are in a section with a mourning wall. So Catherine Maple's memorial for her father, made of these sad people all kind of crowding around this tree. Jessica Wolfson's slipper that she made, her father's old slipper that she made as a mourning drawing, as a way of remembering him. Julie Held, again, holding her father's hand, again in hospital, called Love, in brackets, the hands. And then we have Illness, Laura Foot's drawing here of the experience of feeling ill, like a kind of fortress, the body like this kind of overwhelmed fortress. And Nikki Gardam's drawing of her partner during chemotherapy, and she drew him and kind of talked about the colour as a way of kind of protecting him and trying to encase him in colour. And then there are these John Davies Be a Phoenix, where the woman is sort of rising again. They're on our healing wall. We have a mourning wall, and the other side of the wall is a healing wall. And it has John Davies attempted healing, and also these kind of votive paintings of called Phoenixes rising from the ashes. And you like the way she was kind of smiling through the flames. Massimo Franco, here in person today. Many of you know him as a print technician. This is a brilliant drawing of his parents in a sketchbook. It's really good. And next to Leon Kossoff, a picture of his wife and son, and also one of his parents there. A nice Alice Neal, 2 children, and a Frances Hodgkins, again from the Towner, Strange Children. Now this is going into the family section, which is in a sort of pink area after the brown. But it's not too sweet because it's all quite strange families, and strangeness and darkness is maybe, I think, probably Leon Kossoff is the sweetest, but we've got the Frances Hodgkin, we've got Strange Children, Anne Dowker's playground drawings, where she was talking about the stilts, people on stilts, sort of reminding her of Goya, and a kind of dark energy she drew every day, looking into this playground from her window and just saying she noticed this kind of malevolent, these forces, children, some being left out, the ones who are in charge, the kind of violence at play, and just watching the playground and watching these kind of powers. And then we have Una Grimes, also here in the room today. And these are the big pokey stick series of etchings about, again, that are sort of nursery rhymes go wrong, things that go bump in the night, as Una describes it, about the kind of violence in childhood, disturbance, but yet using these bright colours and using a language of the nursery as well. And Una was admired, by Paula Rego. When she was a student, Paula Rego came and tried to buy a print, I think. And so we also have Paula Rego here in her, as she was for the first time maybe addressing her own autobiographical issues and the family, and putting real figures, moving from just doing it through the language of animals to actual figures and things going on behind doors and half seen through doorways.
They're very puzzling, aren't they? And that child with his hand, you don't quite know what he's doing with his hand.
That hand is so strange, and it looks like a great cavern, the black, the dark in the coat.
And leaving behind, we don't know what, father and
what's going on in the room. And that through the series that we have 5 of the Paula Rego drawings there, and there's always something odd going on in the next room.
Yes.
That people are left out from, and there's always someone having their coat put on them, or having some kind of cover raised up against them. And next to, on one, we have a wall, so we have the Regos on one corner, and then we have these Lowry doll drawings on the other corner. We have 6 of those from the Lowry.
It's worth talking about these a bit, because when I saw them, I was completely amazed by them, because they're sort of bondage pictures, really. And when you mentioned I'd made a film about English painting, and Lowry was one of the people that we went to see. We went to a pub or a house where he lived, I think, where he painted upstairs, where his mother was. And I'd always sort of thought of Lowry, actually tell the terrible truth, until I saw his sea paintings. When I saw those factory paintings, I was always rather bored by the little stick men, going along with the factories behind. But then I saw his sea painting, and I loved that. And when I saw these, I was completely gobsmacked. And there was some funny reluctance, wasn't there, originally, about the Lowry, show them.
There's a sort of reticence. I don't think they gave us everything. We said, can we have as many as you've got?
No, but do you remember at the beginning we thought there'd be...
I think it was more anticipated by Towner. People were worried. It's a very interesting thing with it. It's sort of, does it hide in plain sight? Does it, how people have interpreted it? Because Mervyn Levy, who wrote about Lowry in 1967, says these are extreme, erotic, fetishistic, Freudian images of, cruelty and so it's not, that was the main book on Lowry in the 60s. So it's not hidden, but at the same time, it's not fully really, and he exhibited all these pictures on during his lifetime, and it's known he had this long relationship with a girl called Anne Lowry, who was a younger girl, and did portraits of her, but it's also not completely disclosed. There's probably more to know. You felt there was something cruel about them, about the line, didn't you?
I just think it's sort of, it's kind of objectifying in a way that even I'm sure I'm accused of objectifying women, like we all are, found quite horrifying, actually. I don't know, the corset of the woman the girl on the left, and these strange head things, and the woman on the right clearly kind of trapped by the collar. I just thought they're very powerful, strange, powerful images. And as I say, going back to I'm an amateur in all this, but going back to the people coming out of the factory, the standard thing you see, just so different, and seemed to suggest such a different kind of imagination. We didn't use these when we made the film. We used them. Oh yeah, they didn't offer them to you, did they? They didn't put them in your way. No, exactly. Absolutely not. No. And Paula Rego she said when she was at the Slade, Lowry was the only teacher who was interested. Everyone else wanted her to become an abstract artist.
He was the only person who was interested in what she was trying to do,
Yes.
in what she was trying to bring out in a figurative way. And then she also said, and they both shared a kind of passion for pre-Raphaelite art, interesting as well. And then she also said, you know, if you want to know what Larry's about, you have to look at the doll drawings, or as they get called, the erotic drawings.
Onwards.
Here's a Louise Bourgeois wall from the 1950s drawing. So we were very happy to get these after a lot of trying. And they're quite beautifully just formed, just abstracted, rather than the later things which are more obviously maybe unspeakable insomnia drawings, the family and things. But there's this very nice little right here message between her and Jean-Louis, her son. I will hurt myself to hurt you. Double pince attitude. Stabilize the issue. You know, she's trying to work out something between a dialogue felt between her and her son.
Sorry, it's done it again.
Her and her child. So that was nice to get off of that and kind of unforeseen. And it's a bit like the combination, I suppose, of trying to work out something that's going on in the family, or an issue or something, an argument, but also thinking about it visually. And that felt very important as we're curating the show. You know, how can you, like, using the visual language to understand things that are really complicated, that words don't always help, they don't always reveal, they don't always get you further. And so there's something here where it just feels like it feels quite urgent. She's doing it. She's urgently looking for something through the shape to try and get understanding. And I hope that in all of these drawings that we've selected, that some artists are very beautiful as well. Some are not so beautiful, but there is something about this kind of search for a form. And here we have, this is how it's hung in the show. We have that lovely ink drawing of the Louise Bourgeois, and then it's next to this Madge Gill big calico. And of course, you know, Louise Bourgeois was tapestry background and these cloths, and so there's a huge one. We thought it was a drawing, and then we realized it was a calico, so it arrived from the Bethlehem Museum of the Mind, and it's a big, huge thing. But again, very woven, and it sort of seemed to pick up on the kind of wovenness in that ink of the Louise Bourgeois. And last slide, because really it says this is Roger Hilton, and it's made with his children's paint set when he was bedridden in the last years of his life. And Dad really liked it because it's a boat, and he loves boats and he loves sailing. But also there's something about it. Yeah, it's just the energy that he kept doing, and he kept this kind
and what unspeakable thing is it saying? The sheer thrill of boats.
Yes.
Never properly defined by anyone. Yeah.
That's why I kind of saw it. We were looking through, and I thought, I've got to put that one in for Dad. After dragging you through my love of the unconscious and
Yes.
dark things.
Yes.
But, if anyone has questions, then or wants to go back to any of the images, we've got a bit of time,
so we can see.
Yeah. So we've got like 10-15 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
That's a whistle-stop tour, and that's only 60 images, and there are 300. So luckily there is a cafe opposite. you can break.
No, yes.
What is it about darkness and strangeness that you find so important or useful?
Darkness and strangeness that you find so important.
I suppose I think it's probably just my reaction, because I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to do Ravilious, lovely Sussex Downs, and I think that's where interesting things happen in the dark, and I think drawing happens in the dark, and you have to go into something a bit dark and strange to come out with something new. You don't seek the dark, But you have to rummage about in the dark sometimes. Yeah.
So I'm curious what happens when you draw the unspeakable. Then is it exorcised or is it embodied? Does it transfer itself to the viewer? And were there any works that you found scary? You found actually kind of frightening?
Yeah.
Lots scary. Lots and lots of them very, very unnerving and disturbing, yes. And the more unnerving and the more disturbing, I think, the more we went for them. I mean, when Liza keeps not rubbishing, but saying, oh, I thought I was just going to do Ravilius. I mean, Towner, of course, has a big Ravilius collection, because Ravilius was learnt his art in Eastbourne at the art gallery, at the art school in Eastbourne, and painted a lot about the Downs and everything. And I think what happened was, when we began, we didn't actually have any instructions of what to do. Just you two go away because you like drawing. She does.
Yeah, we had complete freedom. It was quite scary.
And curiously, I think we got more and more drawn to the more frightening, dangerous, powerful, revealing, upsetting images, because they seemed to me at any rate, they spoke so much more directly than a lot of painting does. I just thought, I hadn't really realized we'd been to see the Goya drawings in Madrid together and seen them there, but you don't often see just drawings. And if you do see drawings in galleries and things, they tend to be fairly, they're part of drawing heads or something, they're anodyne. But all the ones we saw, the further we went, and I'm sure we could have actually filled another gallery with another 300, were just so gripping on one's imagination, so frightening, so dark, as you said. Yeah, you should go and see, maybe you'll find it that way.
And yet, I think we were talking with the learning team, and they were talking about, what are we going to do? And we've got school children, and maybe this is too scary, or maybe this is too challenging, and things. And what I felt very strongly is that the language of the drawing itself does provide it. It doesn't take you too far. It's not, even though they're frightening, the language holds you. So the language of the drawing is an answer, in a way, to what you're being confronted with, or to what you're having to address. And through that language, the artist is actually giving you a response and is helping you to digest or to experience the thing through the language. So the artist is holding you in their language, and that's what's very, very powerful. So it's good and bad, I think, and drawing has ambivalence in a way that language doesn't, or photographs don't always.
And the gallery was great in supporting all this. They never quibbled. There was a moment's, what would you call it, hesitation over a wall which centred on a Tracy Emin, and we called rather, was known as the vagina wall. And it's a wall, well, it is a wall of vaginas, actually. And the director saying, well, what do I do with taking kids past? And we said, look, this is, come on. 21st century, they can look at it and be interested in it, which they will be, I think. Sir.
Hello. Could you tell us much about your input on the install and on the wall curation? See, some of the drawings were set in grids or sort of splatter sequence. Did you have any?
Oh yeah, that was really to do with the artist. So like Ansel Groot, his one was he wanted 20 regularly arranged, like a grid, like a Rubik's cube, and then Veronica always installs hers in a much more chaotic. And maybe I was worried I was making them too ordered, so I kept having to shift them so they look less. And then Emma always she does it off the peg frames and also again sort of deliberately not evenly spaced. So I was just following really the way the artist would want to be shown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm just looking at the image that's on the screen.
The screen now.
The screen now, is it a painting or is it a drawing?
Very good point. We did have many arguments about this. I said...
And a follow-on question,
yeah.
Did you ever look at anything and think, that's not a drawing? No. if so, why?
Well, why was this a drawing, Liza?
Well, it's made with charcoal. It's made with the line, and the line is leading it, and it's on paper. It's not a depth. Painting is doing something else where you're really going into a kind of a depth made out of paint, whereas this is driven by the line. That was my argument.
She won. Yes.
Hello, thank you. This reminds me of your original cheerier title, Why Draw When You Can Paint?
Yes.
Why paint?
Why paint if you can when you can draw?
Yeah.
Yes.
And why was that your title? Why did you think of that as the title?
I don't know. I was just trying to give. I tell you why, because I wanted to find a catchy way of saying how important drawing was, and how different drawing was as a skill, and how easy it was to draw compared with painting. I mean, you just need a charcoal or pencil and a bit of paper. Everybody can draw. And why paint if you can draw? Because in my mind was the idea it goes back to what we did during COVID and the various drawings we've sent each other, that you can do something so quickly and get such a powerful message across, whereas painting seems to be a much more considered and difficult and different kind of form. So that's why I thought I just liked the idea of focusing on drawing. I mean, we were asked to focus on drawing, but once we got into it, it was almost a neglected area, really. I'd say not in this building, got to preserve, but outside in the gallery world, you don't often see exhibitions of drawing. In fact, I think this is probably one of the biggest exhibitions of drawings there's been for a long time in Britain, because it's a sort of neglect. I don't know why it's neglected. I mean, it's taught here, and then I don't know, Liza would know better than me, but often people use it as the basis of their painting or sculpture or whatever it is. So the idea of just focusing on the drawing seemed to me to give a coherence to what we were trying to do. I think that's the answer.
Tom?
I think it's worth talking about the teacher that came in and said how useful this would be for her primary school students.
Oh yeah, that's true. On the Saturday morning, I bumped in, because Joe Hill, the director, kept getting worried about the Catholic primary school especially, and I bumped into a teacher on the Saturday, and she was so excited. She said, I can't wait to bring my primary children round. So that was a good relief. And I think particularly she said, oh no, they get inhibited around, they start to think I can't draw. But looking at these drawings, there's such a, there are very, what you might call proficient drawings, but there's all sorts of drawings. And so I think there's so many different ways, showing that ways that you can pick up a pencil and draw from the refugees who might not have ever even tried, and make something strong and communicate to people with it. So. And
also get over the thing, because we have a lot of, at Towner, we have a lot of schools come in. We have a lot of galleries. We have a project to bring schools in from all around. And to get away from the idea, which certainly when I was at school, which was many, many years ago, that there was a way to draw, where you start drawing something and then your teacher would say, no, you've got to shade in this bit and do that bit and do this bit. And this exhibition, any child going will say, well, will say, to hell with my teacher, I could do this, I can do this, I can do it that way and that way and that way and that way. So there's a kind of exuberance and excitement about it. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how all our work with the schools goes with it. And we have various we go out into different parts of Eastbourne and around and bring people in and let them draw there. So I think it'll be very powerful like that.
And there are chalkboards outside as well. So anyone, not just for children, there's some blackboards and chalk and white conte.
Yes. I'd just say it's an hour and a half by train to this wonderful seaside resort. In the Towner Gallery, you will see that this splendid exhibition. There are two other exhibitions on at the same time. There's also a very, very good restaurant which we've now, many people go to, I fear sometimes at the expense of the gallery, but anyway, it's very difficult to eat in Eastbourne. So in the gallery itself, there's the most delicious, if you like, vegan food and little bits of funny beetroot rolled into jellies and all that stuff. It's all very good like that. But so do go. And you know that we're in the summer, I hope in the summer, we're going to have a kind of bus service that goes between the Jerwood Gallery in Jerwood Contemporary in Hastings,
Hastings
Delaware.
Contemporary.
What?
No, Hastings Contemporary.
The Delaware Gallery, ourselves, Charleston, and Charleston in Lewis. So
really overdose.
There are a string of galleries. But at the moment, I have to say, this exhibition is far and away the most stunning. And it's not me speaking, but everybody who saw it when we opened on Friday said it was pretty stunning. I was rather nervous about what people would say, and they'd think it was self-indulgence. But they seem to love it, which is great. And as I say, it's entirely doing. Yes?
I was just wondering if you had any, did you choose, did you want to put certain artists together beforehand, or were you surprised by the links that you saw between them? Or did you
well, both. I had hunches, and then I was surprised, and then I kept being surprised, and that was what was so thrilling about the install, because you keep seeing little things, and even then across the room or round the corner, and so that was interesting, and also I think again because of drawing, there's a way that you can keep all these voices in the room, and it's not a terrible mess. And I think if it was painting, it would be too much and it wouldn't work. But we've got 93 artists, or 94, I think, and somehow the voices all work, and it's a real communal experience. And you couldn't have that with writers. You couldn't have 94 novelists all in a room, or or books, or and yet so you're part of this common voice. And there's this sort of shared voicing, and it's sort of everyone's singing, and they might be singing all different notes, and and sometimes it's a bit of a cacophony, but there is this sense of where everyone's in there with their tune, and that's really moving to be part of.
Can you move back from that one, because you'll be upsetting the man who thought it was a painting. Do something else.
That's a good one.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. That was amazing, that moment when we got offered that.
Where did it come from?
It was a private collection, and we got offered it, and that was a sort of whole second roll. It was just as I was thinking, oh, have we got enough? And then suddenly, end of June, we suddenly just got a whole nother. So it was very much like doing a drawing you never quite knew, and then it was like working in the dark, and then suddenly things just started coming in, and it was very exciting.
The thing, actually, I chaired this gallery trustees for 10 years, and I had never realized before, and this may be obvious to all of you, how much actual work goes in to the hang, because every single picture has to be, you have to have a legal agreement with the lender that they'll lend it for the full period. It has to be insured under a government insurance scheme. It has to be measured by us so that it doesn't, I don't know what it's meant to do, change shape. It has to be identified so that any damp marks or spots are identified before the hang, so that 6 months later the gallery or the owner or whatever it is can't say it didn't have that blotch there, it's for you to clean. I mean, this work is prodigious, and Liza worked with a very good curator in Towner, and they did this together. But I was just astonished at the amount of effort that goes in. I'm full of admiration now for exhibitions that are put on, just because of the sheer labour of doing it. And any of you who lend to galleries will find, if they should anyway, that they'll ask you all these things, and they want to know the value, however you define that, but they will want to, make sure that you're happy and your drawing, your painting is looked after. You have to guarantee the light, level, the temperature level, just extraordinary amount of administration. Just to hang 300 old drawings on a wall.
Any surrealist paintings? Drawings, sorry.
Surrealist?
Yeah.
Well, we have a drawing by Grace Palethorpe. I don't know if you know her, and but she's in another show at the moment of women surrealists. So there's one at the start, the first wall, there's a portrait of Dad by David Hockney, a portrait of me by Massimo Franco, and then there's a text, and then there's this crazy Grace Palethorpe of someone sticking a huge big stick in someone's eye and their mouth. Kind of like, even I thought, oh, that's quite a strange lineup, but yeah.
The Hockney drawing with me is really weird. It was done in the 60s, and I was just having lunch with a friend who was a friend of his, and she said, oh, he's drawing this afternoon, would you like to come and meet him or see him? And so he said, oh, can I draw you? And I sat down and he did this drawing. And when he finished, he said, shall I write on it something? So I said, what do you want to write? He said, I want to write, sorry about the messy shoulders. He'd done lots of little lines. So it just hangs at home. And when I took it down to the Towner, because they wanted they wanted a portrait of each of us, they said, oh my God, that's going to be the most valuable drawing in the show.
Yeah, we need government indemnity.
Particularly because he's written, sorry about the messy shoulders. Confession of weakness. Very weird. I look very, very strange and dark. Actually, this whole thing has brought out my dark side.
That was the point.
Yes. And the drawings you've got that you chose, she chose the drawings. I gave her just a sheaf of rubbish I'd done. She chose these things of these black people pinioned against. Oh. Anyway, that was the whole point.
That was the whole point. Anyway, thank you very much all for coming. And yeah, hope you'll enjoy going to the show.
Thank you both so much on behalf of the school. Incredible to see the images of this incredible exhibition, and an exhibition I think which looks to be very important. So I do hope lots of you can make it on until April.
April the 27th.
But don't delay, because you might want to go twice.
So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.